Howard Lindzon is the founder and general partner at Social Leverage. All opinions expressed by Howard and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Social Leverage or StockTwits. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for decisions. Guests may maintain positions and securities discussed in this podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to my first episode of Lindzanity. And I'm excited as the first guest to have Farbood, a friend of mine. I'm not even going to give him his last name. It was like Madonna. And he's the Madonna of crypto. And so Farbood's going to talk about CoinMine, and we're going to talk about crypto in the future. Dude, welcome to Lindzanity.
Thanks for having me.
Guest number one.
Guest number one.
So there's a little pressure that goes with that one.
Am I the guest or is this the guest?
Both.
Thanks.
This is CoinMine, everybody, but we're going to get to that. So meet Farbood. Farbood's Canadian?
Canadian, yeah.
He's born in Canada.
I wasn't born in Canada, but I grew up there since I was a little kid, so I'm,
So we have that in
Canadian.
common. I'm from Toronto.
Yeah.
But we met through a friend, Brian Norgard. And so I wanted my first show. When I started Wall Street back in 2006, and that was a daily show. So that was like my whole business was going to be the show. I'm not an actor. I'm not anything. I'm not a media person at the time. I just had an idea to do a show. And it was going to be a show about like trends. And at the time, I was so bullish on Apple and the retail stores, and that was our first show.
How long ago was this?
This is 2006.
Okay.
And so flash forward to 2018. Obviously, there's a low budget, Lindzanity. And the idea is to talk about trends, money, millennials, culture, fashion, technology, investing. And everything about that
all my favorite things
is crypto.
Yeah.
So, and I know maybe if the world has all this knowledge, I know this little bit about crypto, enough to be dangerous. Mm-hmm. And you know a lot more, but I can't put it in context how much
Everyone
you know.
in crypto knows very little about crypto. It's part of the nature of something that's that big and moving that quickly and that new.
And so when Apple in 2006 wasn't new and the stores were like laughed at and like they had 60 or 70 stores and it's like you can't do retail. But in my mind, I knew it had kind of jumped, like retail was the thing. That was going to be their moat.
Right.
And so it was the Wall Street was about trends, and since this show is going to be about basically trends too, just a podcast, no better topic than polarizing, exciting, scary, out there topic than Bitcoin and crypto, and then compound that with how to make crypto or how to mine crypto. So you're the perfect guest, no pressure.
Thanks.
And we'll either look really smart in 10 years and go, wow, Howard had CoinMine on as his first guest, or you'll be a hunted man.
Yeah.
So you have to live with it.
That's fine. I'm okay with all that. I mean, if bullish on Apple in 2006, that's about one quarter of the market cap that it is today. So that sounded like a pretty good call. So if we go the same way with Bitcoin, I mean, I think we may go more. And the past couple of weeks we've been seeing things move, but quite frankly, even when it doesn't move, I think it's actually important and interesting. When especially Bitcoin's price stays consistent for half a year. That says a lot about it, as much as when it's highly volatile.
So when did you get the bug?
Probably,
do you remember?
What is it, 2019?
And it's April 2018.
Yeah.
And
19.
Bitcoin today is 2019. Yeah. And we are crypto right around 49.
Yeah, right about
Bitcoin's
5K.
about 5K. What's the market cap, give or take?
You got me. It's north of 100.
Okay. Let's say it's 100 billion.
Yeah.
It's been as high as 300 billion, almost 400 billion. So bear market, crypto winter, whatever we want to call it. And it's been, luckily for me, it doesn't change my life, but I'm over the hump of believing. Now, my belief comes from I hate the banks. I don't trust the financial system. I mean, I use it. I respect it. I pay my bills. I don't get nervous when I send a wire, but I hate my bank for whatever reason. And there's a million reasons to hate it. And if I'm in middle America or I'm poor and I overdraft my account, it's $20. And as we were talking on the way over, someone just did a Bitcoin transaction, $63 million
yes.
transaction for
right.
$4.
That's right.
So you have someone
Probably
over.
settled
My son,
in like 10 minutes.
My son sent a Venmo that he couldn't clear himself because he didn't have money in his account. Cost him $7.50.
That's
Someone
right.
just cleared $63 million on Bitcoin for
Yeah.
$4. That's why I'm bullish. Just
Yeah.
little anecdotes like that.
And sometimes wiring from one side of the planet to the other is a week. You get an investor, they send their wire, they're like, yeah, you should receive it in your bank sometime next week.
Yeah.
People complain that a Bitcoin transaction can take 10 minutes, or if it gets really busy, it might take a day or two.
Right.
But it takes a week to wire, and it costs you hundreds of dollars.
The difference is you have some faith that you can go and yell at somebody if the transaction doesn't happen. Bitcoin's just that next leap of faith. So there's where we got to get over the hump. But the point is, so when did you get the bug? And we'll get into all the rest.
2015.
And so who got you into it?
Just living in San Francisco, it's tough to not know about it. I think probably in 2015, most people outside of San Francisco barely had even heard of it.
Yeah.
But people had been talking about it in San Francisco for 5 years. I think it started in 2009.
So it didn't resonate with you until then?
It didn't really resonate with me until then, but I think it was probably mostly because I was just busy with startups, and so didn't really take the time to sit down and look at it and think through it. But I think when you do, it's tough to not kind of be bit by the bug when you actually take a little bit of time.
And where were you working at the time?
I was working on a previous startup, I think, Learnist.
Okay. And your brother's famous. Is he one sibling?
Just one sibling, yeah.
Your brother's famous. He's a co-founder of AngelList.
Yeah, he started AngelList with
And what's he doing now?
Still doing some AngelList stuff, and
he's living in LA like
a lot of advising. But
he's a legend.
Citizen of the
I
earth.
didn't know you, and I didn't even connect the name. I mean, how many people are? But when I met you, I didn't connect that it was.
Yeah.
Nivi's brother.
He's slowly coming back out of the woodworks. He's always been advising entrepreneurs like myself.
Is he older?
He's a couple years older.
Is he a Bitcoin believer, or is he skeptical?
I'd say he's a believer, but he's not like a techno geek like I am.
Well,
he's not a technophile like I am. He's he likes to. The main thing he likes to do is help entrepreneurs. To be honest.
Okay.
That's
so
what
so he's helping you. He's not part of the religion of it. And how do you separate the religion from just building a business? And we'll get to Coinmine in a bit. How do you separate it? And what made you take the leap from hearing about it to believing about it to starting Coinmine?
I don't think you can separate them. There's a lot of belief required in getting into anything that's new, that's trying to be big. You can't really separate the belief from it. The piece that sort of made me feel like we had to build Coinmine really comes out of the philosophy behind crypto, the philosophy behind Bitcoin. I think of it in terms of the printing press a lot.
Yeah.
I talk about how the printing press existed for a long time, but only the people in power could use them. They were expensive. You couldn't print much, and it allowed people to control information and knowledge. Mm-hmm. Gutenberg's innovations made it easy for anyone to do the printing press. It's sort of the situation where a genie gets out of the bottle and can't be put back in. Yeah. And in certain places at certain times, it was illegal to have a printing press. Right. And you might be put to death for having a printing press.
Right. Well, you still may.
You still may.
Yeah.
But the genie couldn't be put back in the bottle.
Got it.
And so with crypto, you get these, started off with Bitcoin mining. And part of the beauty of crypto is this insane idea that Satoshi came up with, where it balances all these different parties together and creates an incentive structure for people to, share their computing power. Mm-hmm. They get rewarded in this thing where, if you were mining Bitcoin in 2010 and Bitcoin is essentially worth pennies, you're kind of like a crazy person. Why would you give up a perfectly good laptop to mine Bitcoin? It's worthless.
On an ASIC?
No. This is literally on laptops. People were mining it back in the day.
But how? Like the processors were?
It's fine because there wasn't that much hash power, so a normal processor could mine Bitcoin.
And what's hash power?
That's just the amount of computing power that's sort of backing the network.
And back then it didn't take that much?
Back then, at the beginning, it was just done on laptops.
Okay.
Right? So you're a crazy person if you're wasting your laptop and your electricity.
And your time.
Yeah. Because you have to download all the software, have to know how to do all that stuff. So very few people.
Well, you had to believe it would be worth more.
you had to believe in the mission.
Yeah.
If you believed it was going to be worth more, you were probably still kind of crazy. You just were bought into the mission.
Got it. You didn't care if it went to
5
cents.
Thinking that Bitcoin was going to be $20,000 when it was 10 cents. Nobody was running in their head. Nobody was running the math in their head doing that. Right. That's why most of those people became accidental billionaires. Not like, oh yeah, I knew Bitcoin was going to be 20,000 when I was mining it in 2010. You didn't. Yeah. But you believed in the mission. You were just on the, getting into the total global economic collapse, right? Just after 2008. The Times article about banks getting bailed out is in the original Bitcoin block, the Genesis block we printed on the cover of our Coinmines.
Let me see. Oh, the Times. That's a great idea.
And all this is the data from the first block. So a large part of why Satoshi did that was as a sort of a bit of a I don't want to say middle finger to the system, but like an alternative.
You created it.
Yeah. Right. So you bought into that mission. Yeah. And then we got into a situation where people figured out that they could make specific circuits called ASICs that only did Bitcoin calculations, basically making it so that instead of like tons of people having it on their laptops, it now collapsed to very few people, basically controlling all of this hash power. That can be dangerous.
Okay.
And so it became, theoretically you could go buy a little ant miner that's an ASIC machine and sort of decentralize this again, but it was difficult. And so I kind of, lovingly kind of refer to what we built as the Gutenberg version of the
I call it
miner.
the easy bake oven.
Yeah, the easy bake oven of crypto.
I'm a different generation, so we had these ovens that cost. Your parents would pay for this hunk of steel that you would plug in the wall.
$40, but they seemed like a lot.
And your sister would make 2 cakes in it and then get bored of it, and I would melt G.I. Joe dolls in it. I'm 10 years old, and that was the easy bake oven. Yeah. This is an easy bake oven, but when you plug it in a wall, instead of making a cake, it makes money.
It makes money. It makes you Bitcoin.
And what's funny is I'm hopping ahead here. The biggest laugh is when people go, "What's the ROI on this?" And I'm like, "What was the ROI on an easy bake oven that your parents spent $300?"
Well, what was the ROI on mining Bitcoin on your laptop in 2010? Yeah, you were just made fun of.
Yeah, and what's the ROI on learning how to invest and trade when you're buying penny stocks and you're getting tips from your friends and you're blowing thousands of dollars of your money, which most people still do.
Yeah.
So I look at this as I'm trying to get educated. So what made you think, okay, of all the crypto business I can get into, why mining?
So to me, there was a ton of people doing exchanges. There were a ton of people ICOing protocols all over the place. None of that really appealed to me. I liked the core of the mission more than anything else. This decentralizing information and knowledge. Money is one of the most important types of information that we have.
Yeah. So Gutenberg.
Yeah, so supporting that seemed to me like the most interesting place to spend my time.
Okay, so when did you start Coinmine?
We started Coinmine just about 12 months ago.
Okay, so as luck would have it, I just met Brian.
Yeah.
And the first thing he came out, I was like, you got to meet Farbood.
I think it was in New York, actually.
Yeah, it was in New York. I had Brian Norgard, who's like almost a co-founder, I guess.
Basically, yeah.
And built the app for Coinmine. Yeah. He says, you got to, and I'm like, I was into crypto, but not. I was into it because of the exchange side. I had invested in eToro and Robinhood and obviously running StockTwits. So I just knew about it from a price and trading and, and because a lot of VCs were talking about it. Right. I didn't really understand. I still can't say I fully understand. I'm starting, you're teaching me and I'm understanding it more and more. But where are we at in the curve? If guys like me kind of believe, but like don't want to put all our money into it, we still believe, as bad as the government is, that there's going to be at best a parallel universe where governments are going to continue to print money and do stupid things.
Yep.
And mining and crypto should be interesting, but it'll never be currency per se. So
I think it will. But one of the most important things I think Bitcoin and crypto can do is actually just get the existing players to change their behavior.
Okay.
And get them to improve their behavior.
And are you seeing that happen?
That's a good question. I don't know if you're seeing banks getting into crypto, depending on how they want to get into it. If they want to get into it in the way that inspires the same confidence and, mission-driven purpose that Bitcoin has, yes, they'll have to change their behaviors. Like, if you can send $63 million to someone for $4.50 as a fee in 10 minutes, now the bank has to compete with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So maybe they can't
Plus
charge
it's
you
different.
as much.
Like, you don't know who the players are. I mean, it's even better than...
Yeah,
it's not about just the money. It's about security, and it's about...
That's right. And
knowing
some,
who the other party is.
Every country is different. Some countries are more scandalous and more corrupt than others. Some countries, the people in charge completely destroy the economy on a regular basis. The average fiat currency, I think, lives about 25 or 35 years before it's gone. Yeah. The oldest one ever is the British pound. The U.S. dollar has lost 90% of its value in the past 100 years. We printed 4 times more money than we had in 2008 because of the financial crisis. Most of these people admit they don't even know what they're doing, and they're trying to. And we're trusting our entire.
Well, and we said it, Jamie Dimon,
even
if he really believed, he can't really make a bet. Because he'll be dead or out of power anyway.
That's right.
So he has a risk of getting fired if he goes all in on crypto.
That's right.
And if the stock went to 70 from 100, people would start questioning, what are you thinking? Even if it was the right thing 30 years
disruption never comes from the top down. Yeah. It comes either from the bottom
up or from the side. So that's what people, I think,
that
was my point, is like if people are looking to Warren Buffett, they have no, even if they wanted to believe, like who cares if they believe or not? Because even if they wanted to believe and spend every last minute of their lives working on it, they're not going to see the benefits of it.
Mark Andreessen did a great interview pretty recently where I guess there's this New York Times reporter that he swears the New York Times essentially hired just to trash the internet when the internet was coming out. Okay. And you look at these articles that they were writing about the internet being a fad. Yeah. No one's going to use it. Yeah. No business will be done on the internet was what the New York Times was proclaiming to everybody. Yeah. So if you were looking to the New York Times to, predict the future of business, information, communication, it wasn't going to be the internet.
Yeah.
I think we're going to look back at crypto and Bitcoin in 10 years, 20 years, and it's going to be the same thing. You're going to read these articles about people calling it all a joke, and the whole world will be
no one will care. They'll move on to the next thing. So you go from an idea to building this beautiful product. Yeah, so we end up being, disclosure, social leverage, our fund as an investor. But more importantly than that, you're educating me in this. And I come at it from a old person just wants to experiment. I've blown my brains out trading and doing stupid things. So this, to me, isn't about the end unit cost to me. If I'm going to truly understand this, no different than trading a stock. I got to have a brokerage. I got to understand this. So you decide you want to make a machine. What happened next?
I started working on the hardware and sort of hacking together the software part of it. My co-founder, Justin, who's
You can't play games on this and you can't get online on
Not
this.
Yet.
Yeah. But the point is, so you had to go build a special machine?
Yeah, so we built.
So you got your founder your founder was your co-founder.
He's the designer
of Pebble.
That's right. He designed Pebble Watch 2.
So he almost got to the goal line. Like at one point, Pebble was $750 million valuation.
Yeah.
So he's seen the other side and then had it come crashing down on him.
Yeah.
So you dragged him.
He sort of dragged me. He's the one who came up with this.
Okay.
We were roommates in San Francisco, and I've been building computers since I was a kid. Okay. My first startup was in high school selling computers that I'd made.
Okay.
So
you just go get the parts and make it.
I decided to make a miner myself. Horrible decision. Didn't leave the house for 5 days. Turned into a crazy person. Finally got the thing up and running. And it was just like...
Where was mining Ethereum or Bitcoin?
Yeah, I was mining Ethereum.
Okay.
And it was this ugly, gnarly thing that just... we didn't even know where to put it because it was just disgusting. Right. And then he decided to come up with the idea of, doing what he called the Apple of crypto devices. Yeah. He's like, what if Apple did something like this? What would it look like? Yeah. And my first response was, I don't know if it's possible.
God bless him.
Yeah.
That's big vision.
For sure.
Okay.
My response was, I don't think it's possible.
Okay.
But I couldn't get it out of my head.
Huge machine, and this still is theoretically a big machine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't get it out of my head, and when it clicked for me was when I realized that we could control the device with an app. And now if you have an app...
That's what got me excited.
That's what gets me excited too, because now when the whole experience is through an app, you can start doing really interesting things. So now CoinMine is a combination of hardware, software, and services. Yeah. So you plug this into your wall, you connect it to your Wi-Fi,
and
you're pretty much done with it.
Like I have it in my house. It just other than the noise.
The rest of your experience is in an app.
Yeah. The rest of my experience.
You open it up, and you see your crypto go up a little bit.
And they'll intersperse the app into this.
Cool,
so
yeah.
They'll show.
And you'll see it scroll up. You'll have a little more crypto. So that's going on. But then soon you'll be able to open the app and we'll have services available to you. So if you've been making some Ethereum, maybe you'll be able to work with Compound Finance that earns you interest on your Ethereum.
Yeah, so instead of it just sitting in your account.
Instead of just sitting there. Yeah. Same thing with Bitcoin. BlockFi is doing, I think, 5-6% APR on your Bitcoin through them. Coinbase Custody is offering staking as a service where you can stake your Ethereum and sort of get a little bit of fees that you earn for staking your Ethereum. Yeah. So now you're doing all of this through our app. You're turning your electricity, you're literally dollar cost averaging your electricity into crypto of your choice.
Yes. That's what people don't understand. You're turning electricity into money.
Yeah.
And
if you plug it in at the office or the dorm or your parents' place, you're not even covering the
eventually this becomes small if you're just carrying it with you and just taking other people's electricity.
That's right. Yeah. And eventually we may just release the operating system so that
you call that Mine.
We call that Mine OS.
So that's the big idea too. But we'll get into that. But eventually you see the hardware disappearing.
I mean, the hardware is ultimately commoditized everywhere. So the way you can do hardware is you have to go to the edge of the commoditization, right? Mm-hmm. And so we've been lucky to do that in the sense that our hardware person, our founding hardware person, is native Chinese.
There's three of you.
Yeah, there's four of us as a software sort of lead as well. But our hardware guy's been building hardware in Shenzhen for years, and that's the only way you can really do hardware is to go to that edge of commoditization where someone really can't out-commoditize you.
And you did that. So I remember your trips to Shenzhen.
Yeah.
So what was that the first
I mean,
time? He took you, didn't he?
I went. Yeah. He's there most of the time. I went a little bit crazy when I went there. It was like a pretty eye-opening experience.
Well, that was just last year.
It was just last year. I mean, it was my first trip to China, and Shenzhen's obviously a super modern city, and you walk around
10 million
at night,
people.
Yeah, and it feels like you're in the middle of New York. Everybody dresses like you do in New York, and they're hanging out, and all the young people are out. Yeah. The city's beautiful. I actually wrote a whole tweet storm on my flight back that sort of went off a little bit, and some people got angry with me because I think they thought I was excusing the Chinese government for everything it's ever done in its entire history. But the point that I was making is, we went into a bookstore, I think it was 10 p.m. There's blockchain books everywhere. There's kids sitting on the ground just consuming these books in the bookstore. It's where they go to find dates and stuff.
Right.
And I was just really sort of enamored and blown away by it all.
No, eventually we can argue forever. Some things move forward whether we like it or not.
That's right.
So you go to Shenzhen, you scope out the machine. That's where these are made. They're designed in Los Angeles, basically, and engineered in Los Angeles and put together in Los Angeles. But you still are a partner with China.
Yeah. To make all the casing.
And so I have one. What are these going to cost?
So right now they retail for $799.
And you can go coinmine.com.
Coinmine.com.
And tell me about the future. Let's talk about crypto, the future. The future, as I see it, is people are arguing over price. Where do you think in terms of what's happening interesting? Do you care what the price is? Do you, as a founder in this industry, where does it matter to you?
I think usage is more important than price in the end, because what we're trying to do is not make we're not trying to get 1% of the human population to make a bunch of money. Yeah. We're trying to get 100% of the human population using a whole new system. Yeah. Right.
And so this powers a whole new system. Let's get people to understand that. Why we're maybe 1% global? What do you think?
My guess is it's under 5%. It's a few percent probably. In some places like Korea, it's enormous.
What's enormous
In South Korea, I think 80% of millennials own some crypto.
Wow.
In the
and where do they use as a wallet per se, or did you know?
Oh, probably one of the many different exchanges there, but they're very techno-savvy, and they get it. It's easy for them.
Yeah,
right?
they don't have
Especially if
enough
you're a
money
millennial.
that they care per se.
Yeah.
And so they got a couple $100 on the
That's
blockchain
right.
or on crypto.
Yeah.
They don't care.
But even in the United States, I think some 8% of the U.S. owns some crypto. And if you look at like Bitcoin's price, for example, Bitcoin's price dropped 80% from its all-time high.
Mm-hmm. And most alts drop 90 to 95%.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
The computing power that's backing them did not drop that much.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
That's a really important thing to keep in mind because those people are putting literal skin in the game, right? Especially if they're technically underwater at the moment in terms of their electricity or CapEx and OpEx for what they're able to pull out. They didn't all close shop. You'll see, people post pictures of ASICs thrown into the, street. There's some of that.
The same thing with bikes and scooters.
Seriously, especially
no
if you're in
different.
San Francisco, they're just literally throwing.
People just like, well, you're talking about mining when we're doing this shit with bikes and scooters and all these other things that we throw in the river.
So we didn't see the computing power drop 80%.
Exactly.
It's basically what it was when it was at its all-time high. So people are still bullish on. They're using it, right? They're making it happen. I think it would have been a real big problem if we'd seen Bitcoin's hash power drop 80%.
Okay.
Because that's where you're like, okay, this whole thing could just disappear overnight if this is what's happening, if people are literally just shutting the whole thing down. But they didn't, and that's what's important. That's what says a lot more than the price.
People didn't mind losing a little bit if they were mining on the edge on their own. They didn't care if they were losing a little bit. Like us, like we're not going to do the ROI, even though the ROI should work. We're not thinking about that. We're just thinking about the what could be.
Yeah, I mean, we call it. We also, if you're talking in financial terms, you can kind of look at this as plug and play speculation.
Yeah.
Right. Grin is a really popular cryptocurrency that's
Grin's
out.
a new token.
It's new. It just came out in January.
It's a software. It's a staked software.
No, it's like Bitcoin.
Okay.
It's proof of work.
Okay.
And in fact, even Bitcoin maximalists don't talk too much trash about Grin because it's pretty solid. It's sort of pseudo-anonymous like Bitcoin. We don't really know who the original founder was. Okay. It's proof of work, so it's not this sort of just, it actually needs computing power to do it. And currently, it's worth $2.50 for a Grin.
Yeah.
Now, if you're Grin bullish, you're not going to mine it and sell it at the end of the week for $2.50. You're going to mine it and hold it for 2 or 3 years because you think Grin's going to hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. If it does, and you do, then this device will make you tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
But you have to believe that, and that has to happen.
And you have to do your own work.
Yeah.
It's no different than stocks, except you are the market.
That's right.
So I was mining Grin at the beginning at like $5-6.
Grin's had a couple issues.
To Ethereum,
it's still young, yeah.
And because I just got sick of seeing, and I don't know what I'm doing other than, open up the app.
Technically, the Ethereum
and literally
makes you more.
What's beautiful about the app is I can go Ethereum, Monero, Zcash, and Grin. I don't even know if you do Grin right now.
Right now Grin's having some issues, so we just pulled it down, but it'll be back.
But people who have Grin, it's still there. Your money's still there.
Yeah.
So so I switched to Ethereum, but that's why the app is so important. People need to see and interact in an interface with their money. You can't just have a piece of hardware and go, I'm going to forget the password. So how do you take all that out of it? What's the other things that you're thinking about? Forgetting the hardware.
Yeah.
So now I'm mining Ethereum.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, even simpler, what we're going to launch here in the very near future is what we call Bitcoin mode.
Okay.
And so what the device will do is algorithmically...
Because right now you can't make Bitcoin on it.
Right now it does not make you Bitcoin. But so when we launch Bitcoin mode, it will.
This off to the side.
When we launch Bitcoin mode, it'll algorithmically mine whatever converts to Bitcoin the best.
So it
and
sweeps
then just
your account.
convert it.
So it just sweeps your account.
That's right. And because everything in crypto is sort of, digital native, right? I can just have a software engineer do all of this. Yeah. We don't need to do deals with banks, and we don't need to do business partnerships. Yeah. It's all just done by one person sitting at a computer. So you don't know what it'll be powering. It could be powering Ethereum, Monero, Zcash, some other thing. It'll algorithmically power whatever converts to Bitcoin. It'll convert it to Bitcoin for you, keep it in your Bitcoin wallet, and then again, if we're working with folks like BlockFi, you'll be able to earn interest on that Bitcoin. Or it also ships with what's called a Bitcoin Lightning node, which is sort of these peer-to-peer payment systems. And if you fund your Lightning node with a little bit of Bitcoin and other people send their payments through your channel, they call it, you'll earn a little bit of a fee.
Yeah.
So it'll earn you Bitcoin and then earn you fees on your Bitcoin. And again, if you're bullish on Bitcoin, you think it's going to $100,000 in 5 years, you're going to do great. If you think Bitcoin's going into the ground, then I recommend you have nothing to do with crypto at all. So that's the real choice to make. It's not that complex. It's like, decide if you think it's going to the moon in a few years. Make your decision based on that.
And what makes eventually the price go up? In the end, just usage. And so with usage, how does that make the price go up? So explain that.
I mean, the bottom line is there's 21 million theoretical Bitcoins will ever be made, but they won't even get close to that because millions of Bitcoin have already been lost forever.
So maybe there'll be 16 million,
16, 17 million ever. Now, the cool thing about Bitcoin is each Bitcoin is divided into 100 million Satoshis.
I think people don't understand this. They by fractions
and
of them.
People, we kind of think that Satoshis will be the dollar of the future.
It's bad marketing. What the fuck is Satoshi? Like,
That's fair.
You know, maybe dollars sounded dumb at the beginning and pennies, but
that's fine. Call them dollars. Doesn't matter.
I think that's part of the marketing and branding of beyond Bitcoin. The branding's been terrible.
The branding's been terrible. Bitcoin's a great brand. But in each Bitcoin, there are hundreds of millions of smaller pieces of it.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if a single Bitcoin is worth $1 billion because each Satoshi, I could just send you a Satoshi, and that's going to be $10 or $1. So it's fine. So it's really just a supply and demand thing. If you imagine like some chunk of the global economy running on Bitcoin, that's going to sort of determine the price of a Bitcoin. And it doesn't matter. You don't need to buy one Bitcoin. If one Bitcoin is $100,000, it doesn't matter. You can buy 10 Satoshis.
Yes. And so usage drives it. And then let's talk about transaction costs, because there's this talk, I really like Lightning Network because that makes sense to me. The one objection is, listen, in the United States, my kids use Venmo, my wife uses USAA, I have Wells Fargo. I hate them, but like, what's the point? Like, I just leave a minimum amount of money in there to do my monthly work and try not to give them any money in fees. And Visa and MasterCard. So in the United States, it's like, what? I got to learn something new. So how do you get over that hump?
Yeah, here's where I get a little animated because this stuff gets me fired up. I mean, I think of so in the U.S. alone, there's, I think, $200 billion a year or something stupid spent on basically credit card transaction fees. You're running a little coffee shop in San Francisco. So that makes your cup of coffee like, $7 or something like that. You're paying 25 cents per transaction plus another 3% on top of it. So to sell a $5 cup of coffee, you have to spend 50 cents in transaction fees. And if you're a little coffee shop, that's all you're doing is selling $5 cups of coffees. That's 10% of your revenue is going to someone to process an electronic payment. You think
it's a small transaction. It's a micro transaction.
That's right.
You trust everybody.
That's right. You're going to lose $5. It'll be fine. So to me, it's like this is one of those like emperors running around naked, and none of us are noticing. We've all grown accustomed to a world where like 3.5% of your revenue just goes to someone for processing your payment. That's a business. That's a margin, but it's a literal business. People have businesses with smaller margins than that. So this is just because we're stuck into this mode of thinking that this is like some law of nature that like to send a $5 transaction from one person to another, 10% of it has to go to a bank. That's just not the case. On the Lightning Network, you'll be able to do that $5 transaction and it might cost you less than a penny.
I mean, to me, no one's talking about it. I mean, the geeks are talking about it, so I'm in the geek world. I didn't know what Lightning Network
They're
was.
starting to, though. Square's going into it. Square's filing patents on Lightning Network hardware and things like that. Jack just said he'll pay open source developers on Bitcoin out of their own Square's pocket just to have them
to me, it's
it.
like a highway system. You got this clogged Bitcoin highway that's expensive. It's crowded all the time.
It can be,
blah, blah, blah. And Lightning Network is just this on-ramp for smaller transactions.
Let's off some of the steam. The smaller transactions can happen on Lightning.
Because a guy who's running a coffee shop doesn't need to worry, and he's dealing in Satoshis and $3 and $5 transactions. He gets I mean,
he can't wait 10 minutes for a transaction to clear for the person to buy a cup of coffee.
Well, he's still on the hook if someone screws him with the debit card.
That's right.
So he's going to be on the hook anyways. And if all the transactions are small, there's a certain amount of crime and fraud.
Yep.
But he can take it on himself if he's not paying, or she, the 3.5% or more that they're doing on every transaction.
And it would be fine if it was 3.5%. It's when it's $5 and the transaction costs 25 cents plus 3.5%.
Yeah.
Just the 25 cents, you're almost at 5% of the revenue.
So what happens if Lightning Network doesn't take off? That's risk. There's risk there.
There's risk there. There's other technologies.
And how did Lightning start?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. So Lightning is not necessarily limited to just Bitcoin.
Okay.
It's sort of it's a concept of running a sort of side chain that resolves back to some main chain, and has certain attributes of its own. So theoretically, you can do other blockchains using a Lightning methodology.
Yes. But eventually this would come with a Lightning node. Or you'll ship one to the people.
Every one of these ships with the entire Bitcoin blockchain on it. That's why it's kind of heavy. No, I'm just kidding.
So you turn that on, immediately you can start sweeping in this machine into Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so Mine OS, the big idea that you guys have, and explain quickly that before.
Sure. So, the real brains behind this is the operating system. Like I said, hardware is ultimately commoditized. You can do well at hardware if you go to the edge of the commoditization, but you can do better with hardware and software. So Mine OS is something that we're planning on releasing in the future, basically as a standalone device. We'll sell little thumb drives. We sort of liken it to the original Square card readers. You could buy those.
Or what iOmega was back in the day at storage. It was just like a way to store shit.
That's right.
And take it with you.
That's right.
Okay.
So you can imagine our operating system being on a little thumb drive. And any old computer you have or new computer, you just plug this thing in and it turns your device into a coin mine. And again, you're running it all through our app. So you could have
10 machines, old machines.
That's right. They don't need screens. They don't need keyboards. They don't need mice.
They just need a USB and
power.
They
just need a USB and power and some internet, and you're controlling it from your phone.
Okay.
So now you have your old desktops, your old laptops, maybe one day your PlayStation, all just, it already works on these like sort of at-home mining rigs that people make that they got 7 or 8 GPUs. We're already in beta testing Mine OS on those. It's cool.
No, I've seen it. It's cool.
Yeah, it's really
And so if that works, the price comes down infinitely.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the way we look at market size for us is it's purely a function of the sort of specs of the device, which is what it does, how much it costs, what it generates for you. So as, just stealing from Bezos, better, faster, cheaper, right? As each CoinMine product becomes better, faster, and cheaper, more and more people will come on.
Yeah.
And all we want to do is climb up that curve.
And so people can order these. You've only raised a seed round, so you've gone a long way with a little bit of money. What's that like? What's it been like selling hardware? Because I'm an easy sell.
Thing ever.
How it's been different or easy or hard? Or
it's way harder, way cooler. Again, it comes down to people. Our guy Steven in Shenzhen, we wouldn't be able to do it with him. Obviously, couldn't do it without my co-founder. Couldn't do it without the software team. We're a very small team, and every single
10 people, 12 people.
Not even. We're 8 people.
Okay, 8 people.
The company wouldn't be here for want of any of those people being.
And you can see the experience. I mean, from the packaging to the care. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong when you're making. It's one thing to ship software and be like StockTwits, where as long as the site's running, people are doing their thing. But to go China, build this machine, raise the money, squeeze everything down, deal with customer experience, because I'm like your nightmare customer, right? You ship me one earlier, and I'm like, everything breaks.
We call for me, I break everything. Investor problem that we're constantly trying to make
break
sure
everything. So I've had one now for a few months, and it works great. But if there's a bug, I'm going to find it because I don't know how to use anything. So how do you deal with that? How are you thinking through that?
That part's the easiest because you can just use software to troubleshoot with people, and since our operating system is essentially a distributed network. So to the extent that we can essentially go into your device and address any issue. It'll update itself overnight constantly. Different different protocols change. Monero, for example, forks every 6 months to kick the ASICs off of it. You don't have to do anything. Your device will just automatically
But people have
update.
to trust you. So the big leap of faith, they have to trust CoinMine, the entity, and you and the team. And so
But if you don't move your crypto out of our wallet that we make for you, and
that's the cool part.
Put it on your own cold storage and swallow it. And
I think that's what people are missing. At some point, you're going to let people just move it wherever they want. You don't want to hold.
And when you're starting, there's not a lot. It's not day one is not $1 million worth of crypto.
You have a couple pennies the first day.
So you decide how much you want to trust us and where you want to, hold your crypto.
And how do you see it happening in the world? Is there going to be one wallet to rule them all, or are people just going to? Where do you see it in the United States? I think there's going to be a lot of different wallets, just like people have a lot of different wallets and a lot of different bank accounts at a lot of different places. You might have small amounts in this one, larger amounts in a different one. You may have, Coinbase custody controlling, your $20 million of crypto, but you have like a smaller entity that has, $10,000 of your crypto in there that you're using on a regular basis because the money that you have with Coinbase, is being put to use and earning you fees and earning you interest or something like that. Is there anything that I'm missing about CoinMine? Because I know we've been talking for a while. Is there anything like on the...
We even revealed a few things that we haven't told others yet.
So if people really want to speculate, is there something out there that so we talked about Lightning, we talked about Grin, we talked about staking as a service. Just what talk about software staking and what that means versus mining.
It's really early on that.
Okay, so
and it's not happening much. There's a few protocols where it's working. Tezos, for example, it's out there and it's working. It's another sort of form of crypto economics, basically. With staking, you're saying, hey, I'm going to put up this amount of Tezos or Ethereum, and if I do something nefarious on the computing side, right, it's going to be taken away. So it basically gets people to behave correctly by saying, if you try to mess with the system, then you'll lose what you staked. And if you don't,
that's cool.
You'll earn a little bit of a fee for what you're staking because people are going to use your computer, so you deserve to be paid for it. So
it's rent.
You sort of put up this collateral. Yeah, exactly. Someone's using your computing power, and they pay you a little bit of that same type of thing.
I mean, in theory, that's going to be the way. So pretty exciting. Now, I call it Easy Bake Oven. You call it plug and play speculation. Say people want to put $100. What's today for an American? They got $5,000. They want to speculate. What's the easiest way to get onboarded? If they don't want to buy a machine and do this themselves, they want to just put $1,000 into Bitcoin. What's the easiest way today? Coinbase. So they become synonymous with just opening an account.
I think so. They've got a pretty good slick UI. It's pretty easy. I personally would trust them with that amount of money. I do. Or I trust them with more money.
And with passwords. Yeah. Any tricks? Because sequences. What should human beings do?
Yeah.
Should it be a phrase in their mind?
This is good. There's a couple things. One, never use a phone number to secure accounts.
Yeah.
You can.
How do you get off of Verizon screwing you or AT&T?
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's always going to be a vector of vulnerability, people porting numbers and things like that. Okay. But that's why it's very important to use either an app like Authy or Google Auth. Don't use your phone number to secure as your two-factor authentication because people can port your number.
Yeah.
So that's one very important one.
But in terms of Coinbase, they're going to ask you to set up a password or a phrase.
With a phrase.
And you're going to die, or you're going to forget that you use your mother's maiden name or her birth date or somebody's birthday. Is there any tricks to phrases?
There's no real
should it be a name? Should it be a word? Or should it be numbers?
Well,
should you think in terms of what do the average person do? Do you use numbers
anytime
and
you're
words?
making passwords, you want to think in terms of phrases.
Yeah.
Right? Because you can remember a phrase, and it's essentially impossible for someone to hack a phrase. If your phrase is, I love chocolate ice cream forever, no computer is ever going to hack that.
Right. It's in your head.
Yeah.
And you're not going to forget it.
And you're not going to forget it.
Well, I could. I'm at the age where I forget
It's possible.
So I really have
But also you should use a password manager.
Okay. And what's the best password manager?
I mean, there's a bunch of them. I like 1Password. They're pretty good.
Okay, these are important things. So to get started, Coinbase. $1,000. If you want to speculate, the easiest way I've ever seen is what you guys are building.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Plug it in.
And just the app's joyous, and we'll show some demos of the app. The 1Password, if you're going to do any computing, 1Password, okay, and just do that. And then for your money, I think a phrase matters. You know, obviously,
and no phone numbers.
No phone number. Or birthdays. If I love chocolate ice cream, who do you have to share that with?
Nobody.
Your wife? Meaning it dies with you and that's it?
Yeah, you may want to trust your wife, or, you know, if you have a custody solution out there, if it's a lot of money.
But first Tinder date, do you give out your favorite phrase?
No, probably not.
Okay.
There's also
I've done that.
There's also what they call multi-sig solutions, where it's essentially you could set something up where 5 people have different pieces of a password, essentially.
But that's how the machines do it.
Yeah, and to
that's how crypto
clear
works.
It, like you can set the rules up that any 3 of them can cause something to happen.
So I think for the average person, a phrase that means something to you, it could be a movie phrase, it could be from a TV show, it could be.
Don't use the same password over and over. Use phrases. Use 1Password or.
But don't let that be the reason you don't do this. Is that stupid?
No. I mean,
like people are telling you it's going to get hacked or stolen. Only you are in control of that.
Start with what you're willing to lose.
Yes. So I think, great advice. Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully everybody learned a little bit from this first episode of Lindzanity, and they can check back in 10 years with Bitcoin at 5,000 today.
We'll see how we did.
Yeah. I'm pretty happy about Apple. I mean, the first week of Wall Street, we did Apple. I just knew in my mind. I know in my mind today that, Bitcoin could drop to 1,000 or 500. But, risk reward, when I think about the big, that it should be dead already. If Bitcoin was going to be 0, why isn't it 0 yet?
Yeah.
Because it should be. Everybody's
given up on it.
It's got a
lot of computing power keeping it alive. It has more computing power behind it than any other computing system in human history.
Well, and I look at it as the brand of Bitcoin. You can go to any corner of the earth and say Bitcoin.
That's right.
And people are like, what? It's not the first time they've heard of the word. They may not even understand what it means.
Both of the TSA employees that were checking out my CoinMine over here, they were both like, "Oh, is that a miner?" Yeah. I'm like, "Yeah." And as I was walking away, the lady said, "Good luck."
So people still think it's that's the opportunity. People still think there's luck involved, etc. But it's really a little bit of common
when you
sense.
really get to understand Bitcoin, you'll see that it's the most sound money that's ever existed.
All right, we'll end it on that.
More than gold.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.